All right, welcome to round one of our Saheeli Evolution Modern League here. This hand is questionable. It's very slow in that it doesn't have a mana dork, and we do also have this Sun Titan, which is pretty awkward. However, we do get Renegade Rallier to ramp us with a fetch land, and we also get a little bit of card selection off of this Oath of Nissa, so it's kind of hard to mulligan this blind with our opponent mulliganing as well. So I'm going to keep, like I said, it's very loose. It's hard to keep hands without a mana dork, but you can't always mulligan looking for a mana dork, especially in a situation like this where I'm going to have a lot of card selection to perhaps slow my opponent down. Hopefully I can at least find like a Voice of Resurgence or a Wall of Omens or something off of this Oath to buy me a little bit of time, and then this can accelerate me mana-wise as well. So we'll see what our opponent is on here and whether we've made a horrible mistake. All right, so that's not a good indication that our keep is going to be very profitable for us here. Looks like most likely Affinity. Yep, Springleaf Drum, certainly an additional indicator. Definitely Affinity. All right, opponent has a very slow starting hand, so that's good for us. Razorverge Thicket will also save us a few life points. Definitely going to utilize that as well. Certainly, I don't really want to draw additional lands right now. I could fetch to thin, but it's not worth losing the life points here. So we did not find a 2-drop, but I did find something to accelerate me. An additional mana here, which is not bad. We can try to get to the point where we're using this Felidar Guardian relatively soon to blink the Oath of Nissa, looking for a Saheeli Rai, and combo our opponent before it's too late. They can't have Galblast to break up our combo, though. So that's something we're going to have to watch out for. All right, Overseer into Signal Pest. So still a pretty slow start, all things told. All right, so we already found a Saheeli Rai, so really it's just a matter of playing around Galblast if we can, and getting to a respectable amount of mana. Oath of Nissa fixes our mana for Saheeli Rai, so I don't have to worry about that in the slightest. We are just a green-white deck at this point, as long as we have Oath of Nissa in play. I'm thinking about whether or not to play Temple Garden tapped here, or to use a Wooded Foothills. The advantage, of course, on waiting on Foothills is that I have things like Renegade Rallier in my deck, so I guess we'll play Temple Garden tapped, especially since I don't need any other colors of mana at this stage. And this, of course, is the advantage of not playing something like PN Kirin Nalaar. While PN Kirin Nalaar is very good in this matchup, I don't have to worry about putting any red sources in play right now. I have literally 0 red cards in my 60 other than Saheeli Rai, which Oath of Nissa fixes for perfectly. It looks like my opponent probably drew the Ravager. I guess they would have wanted to lead on Overseer, so they likely have the Ravager already. So that's not great for us, but again, I don't think our opponent's putting on a particularly fast clock where we can't expect to get there. It looks like they might be Galblasting our Dork, which is probably good for us, considering that we needed them to not have the Galblast to break up our combo. Okay, so looks like we're just going to be Renegade Ralliering. We can get either Noble Hierarch or Fetch Land. I think I'm going to get the Fetch Land. Obviously, the Fetch Land costs us a life here, and Noble Hierarch can be a body. I guess we're not playing around Galblast, so maybe there's no reason not to get Noble Hierarch. Either way, I need to be producing as much mana as possible. We have to get to like 6 mana quickly. Our opponent is getting more of a clock going pretty quickly here, so the life point really could matter. And like I said, I'm not playing around additional Galblast since that's really bad for me anyway, so I guess I will return the Noble Hierarch. So next turn I'll only have 5 mana effectively available to me, which is not the 6 I needed to Felidar Guardian and Saheeli Rai in the same turn. Plating. Okay, that's not good. That is not good at all. So that'll be 8. 8 damage this turn. And 9 next turn, so if my opponent can produce a single additional artifact, that will be lethal. And I have nothing to do about that. I also now can't fetch, so I'm particularly glad we got Noble Hierarch, so that we're not just stone dead. But like I said, all my opponent needs is one artifact, which should be relatively trivial. There's not really much I can do here, though. With my hand, I kind of just have to hope. So, looks like I'm just going to Felidar Guardian this Oath of Nissa. There's really nothing I can find that matters. Maybe I should just Felidar Guardian this, so I have maximum blockers. Like, I have the 3 lands I need. I don't know what I would possibly need to block, though. I guess I'm actually just stone dead. I was thinking of the plating and the Ravager as being counterproductive together, as they normally are, but the Steel Overseers put 2 counters on this, so I guess they just sack this and kill me, so I have to leave a bunch of mana to not die to try and make them think I have something. Yeah, I'm just dead here, unfortunately. I don't think there's really anything I can do. I guess I'll Felidar Guardian. I'll play this. Felidar Guardian, blink my Renegade Rallier, get another land, and just try to make my opponent paranoid that I have something, but I'm certainly dead on board. Both my opponent and I had relatively slow starting hands here, but having that Gal Blast made a huge difference. Slowed me down by an entire turn. Alright, well, they have the artifact anyway, so now they don't even have to sack their Ravager. So I can't imagine they can possibly screw this up now. Now they don't even have to activate their Steel Overseer. So I'm not sure what could possibly go wrong. And now I even have to block with this and still just dead, so yeah. We are very dead here. See if my opponent takes an action just out of curiosity. They do not, of course. No surprise there, but they paused for a moment, so I was curious. Okay, so against Affinity, let's get these a little bit larger here. That's better. Against Affinity, we're pretty happy to have Reclamation Sage. We're pretty happy to have Izzet Staticaster. Because I have multiple targets that I want to grab, I'm definitely happy to have Eldritch Evolution. We want our 4th Path and Kataki as well. Even Linvala can be kind of good. It's a flying blocker, and flying can be very relevant, of course, against Affinity. On top of that, it does affect some of our opponent's cards in Steel Overseer and Arcbound Ravager. There's probably something else I'm forgetting as well. But we'll definitely bring that one in. You could make an argument for Baloth or even Moon, but I don't think either of those are going to end up being worth it. Baloth just doesn't get to block very much, so it's just going to end up being like a 4 mana gain 4, which is really not what we're in the market for. It's a little slow. Speaking of a little slow, we're probably going to have to bring out this Sun Titan. May have to bring out the Sphinx and shave a Rallier. I like to leave the Witness here, especially when I'm trying to path as often as possible. Scavenging Ooze is okay because the games are going to go long and things are going to die. But a lot of the ways that I'm going to kill things are going to be through paths. I mean, I do have stuff like Staticaster and Kataki, which can cause, or just blocking even, which can cause things to die. Or they have Ravager. They can end up sacking a bunch of things that way. Thragtusk might also be too slow. But it's possible I want to leave some amount of my life gain elements in. I just don't. I guess Voice of Resurgence is definitely not very powerful here. Ooze is probably better, but obviously Ooze is a much worse thing to sack to Eldritch Evolution. I guess I swap those anyway. just because it's so bad here. Wall of Omens is not very good, but it does cantrip me into my cards that matter, right, which is important. I have a few cards that matter a lot, and a lot of cards that just are kind of mopey, and I need to make sure I'm getting to those cards that matter quite a bit, rather than having like additional Voice of Resurgences or something like that. So I'm leaning towards these 5 at the moment. Similarly, I want all my Oaths to make sure I'm hitting those cards that matter. I want all my Dorks to make sure I'm as fast as possible. So, yep, I think this is where we're going to be here. Did I forget anything out of the board that I really want? No, I don't think so. All right, let's go ahead and run it like that. Moto will resize this window as it sees fit, but we'll fix it. All right. Certainly will be on the play. This hand looks great. Very happy to keep this hand. This hand Reclamation Sages a lot, unless Reclamation Sage gets Gal Blasted. Of course, our bird can also get Gal Blasted on turn 1, which would be pretty unfortunate. I do not have a an Oath of Nissa, so I might need to be a little more aggressive with what lands I find here. So if I did have an Oath of Nissa, I could just get like basic forest here and not feel bad about it at all. I might just grab a Breeding Pool or a Stomping Ground here. I guess looking at my other cards as well, now I do have Staticaster in. Other than that, there's no real consideration for Breeding Pool versus Stomping Ground in this spot. So I think I'm going to grab Breeding Pool here. And then I can get like Plains off of this Windswept Heath if the bird doesn't die. If the bird does die, I might feel like I need to get Sacred Foundry, but that's, I guess that'd be coming into play tapped at the end of the turn. So yeah, be something like Sacred Foundry. White mana. Well, it doesn't look like a Gal Blast then. Whoops, whoops. We do not want to go straight to attacks. So I can Reclamation Sage either the Springleaf Drum or the Vault Scourge. I could also play Saheeli Rai tick up. I don't like that as much. I kind of want to save my Saheeli Rais here for minus. Obviously, I have the potential for just killing my opponent the following turn, but there's also the potential that I just either A, don't hit a land, or my opponent's like, okay, great, plating, attack your Saheeli, right? So I think I'm going to take this game a little slower and just try to benefit off of my Reclamation Sage as much as possible, since I happen to have that in my opening hand. We also have this Linvala we could get to as well, so I don't think there's any reason to be all in on the combo here, even if I do have the pieces. If I had the guaranteed 4th land, maybe. But even still, I'd be tempted to do it this way. Alright, Edge Champion. Doing that again. I guess it's because I'm on a different setup here than I usually am, so I might make a couple mistakes like that, but I think it's because there weren't any stops set on my upkeep, which I'm used to. So hopefully that'll fix that. So we found an Oath of Nissa. So we can't cast Linvala or Felidar, but I can make a Rex Sage token. Now, it's kind of a bummer because obviously I would want to attack with that Rex Sage token, and now I'm directly in combat, but it's not that big of a deal. If I do make a Rex Sage token, I'll blow up the Ornithopter probably. This will still have Metalcraft, but if I can blow up another one, we can maybe actually get them to a point where they just no longer have Metalcraft, which would be obviously excellent for us. I could also Oath looking for a land here, which is a little greedy, but it's not like I'm terribly unlikely to find a land. I do get to look at the 3 cards, but if that does end up being my whole turn, I mean, I guess I could also find a 2-drop. So I guess we'll go ahead and do that. All right, so we found Bird, Wooded Foothills. So I'll grab a Wooded Foothills, and we'll fetch a basic forest, which puts me off of double white without the bird, but kind of depending on this bird anyway. Now you can make an argument that, sorry, Oath of Nissa is pretty weird on Magic Online here. So we could make an argument that plussing is better. If my opponent has a plating, then they still get to kill it, but yeah, I guess I'm actually going to plus this now. Yeah, Eldritch Evolution's good. I don't like topping here when I already have the combo because I don't want to make my opponent any more nervous than they might already be about the combo, but we'll think about it for a little while and then top it. Hopefully our opponent won't necessarily think we have the combo or just won't have anything to do about it. I do not feel like my opponent has Gal Blaster. I think they would have Gal Blasted my Bird of Paradise on turn 1 instead of playing the Vault Scourge. But you never know. Hopefully no, like, Ravager here. Would have been nice to play Linvala that turn. Okay, so they do have a plating. So this is not a good setup for me, but fortunately we have the additional Saheeli Rai, so I can actually just blow the plating with my Felidar Guardian and then follow up with Saheeli Rai, which is much safer to lead on your Felidar Guardian, obviously. My opponent just has to have Gal Blast then, or we can get there. All right, so my opponent's going to kill Felidar, no huge surprise there. And we draw the evolution. Now before I get too crazy here, whoops, let's double check and think about what we could get here. We could get obviously the Kataki or the Staticaster. Are either of those things particularly appealing here? Not really. Kataki would be good, but is it a better use of my turn than just Felidar blow this up? I think no, especially since I have Saheeli in play. So, whoops, we should obviously attack first here. My mistake. So stop here either, which I'm also used to. Let's put that there. I'll just have to be extra cautious. Like I said, playing on I'm out of town this weekend, actually, getting ready for SCG Louisville, Kentucky. So I'm excited about that. But currently on a friend's computer. Hopefully, I'll get a little bit used to these settings, or at least revert them to how I'm usually used to. So we're gonna go ahead and blink this Reclamation Sage and hit this Cranial Plating. That way we can be a lot less nervous about everything our opponent has to offer here. Hopefully they don't have like an additional plating. I guess it doesn't really matter. Really all at this point that I need them to do is A, not kill me this turn, which I'm pretty confident they will cooperate in that regard, but B, I need them to not have a Gal Blast, which again, I feel like they have not had one. Is this an Aether Grid? No, it's just another Edge Champion. So they still have the ability to produce red mana. I'm certainly not playing around it. Like I said, they have one card. It felt like they didn't have one early on. I feel like I kind of need to go for it here. Alternatively, even if it fails, I can go get a Kataki and hope to hamper my opponent. But with this much mana, not that many artifacts, and 2 Edge Champions, that really won't work. So I'd probably have to get something else, to be honest. But at this point in time, I think it's just in my best interest to go for it here. Use this green as red, please. So we will make a Felidar Guardian token. Sweet. All right, game 3. Is there anything we want to do differently here? I think not. I think we're just going to remain with the same 60 here. Windows forever resized. Put that back. And put it back over here. Maybe one day it will remain the same size. Okay, so this hand is very slow again. However, it does have Eldritch Evolution, which is a very important card in the matchup, and I can find like a 2-drop off of this Oath of Nissa, which I can convert into any of my relevant bullets. I never mentioned the Scattered Groves, by the way, which I've been long testing to see, and others as one-ofs to see if they're comparable or even better than Horizon Canopy in some spots. Because certainly there are spots where they are better, certainly there are spots where they are worse. basically I'm just trying to play this to figure it out. I think largely it is worse. Obviously the advantage of playing the filter land is that I can play, not the filter land, excuse me. The advantage of playing these cycle lands is that I can play ones of other colors than just green-white. But anyway, I think, for the record, I think this has largely been worse for me so far, but there have been many situations where it was better, so something worth considering. Back to this hand, though, I think I'm going to keep. I have Oath of Necessifix for the Saheeli Rye, I have Eldritch Evolution to find a bullet, and I have half my combo, so I'm going to keep here, but it is definitely slow, not ideal. Opponent also has a slow hand for me here. So my preview window got a little bit sized differently. Oh well. Don't know why. Can't explain it. Path is a good draw here. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to take Felidar over Basic Forest. I would have much preferred to have found something more impactful to do next turn that I could Evo away. But yeah, I'm going to take Felidar over Forest. Next turn, we may need to play the Scattered Grove tapped just to be super cautious. Obviously, if I draw a 2-drop, I'm going to not do that, and I'll play the 2-drop instead, but there may be something I particularly want to path this turn anyway. So we will see. All right, Ravager. I guess probably worth padding at this point in time since I just have so few artifacts. Another Saheeli Rye. Well, that's good. That makes, I mean, in some senses, that allows me to cast the Saheeli Rye without fear. I am going to take the conservative line and play this. And we'll, I think, path this in the upkeep. The problem with pathing this in the upkeep is that my opponent has the actual option of using their Ink Moth in some way, whether it's animate, put the counters on it, or what have you, or even sack it, animate, sack it. But I really don't want to give my opponent the extra land when their hand is this slow. They obviously have some more powerful stuff going on. I guess I'm just going to pass and not even upkeep it. We'll see. Maybe they'll cast something like a Etch Champion, and then I can respond to the Etch Champion and kill this, and then we'll be in the same spot. Certainly we're just going to take the 2 here. Looks like our opponent's intent on casting a 3-drop. Ooh, no, another Ravager. I guess I do want to path this then. Don't really want my opponent to be able to just have this not matter by putting the counter on another Ravager. At least this way they kind of have to like distribute their counters weirdly, where they end up putting a counter on a Memnite or an Ink Moth and then they just have another Ravager. But another Ravager is kind of a bummer for me. My opponent may get to the point where they can actually just infect me to death. Like if they animate here, sack it to itself, put the counter on this. I guess perhaps I should have just padded this on my own turn because my opponent would have been so likely to sack it to itself, but it was only 1 counter, so I figured they might have let it go and just taken the land, and I really didn't want them to have the land. See, they even took the land here. They didn't even put the counter on anything here, so yeah. I guess I'm glad we played it the way we did, but... Okay, well, that may change things. Although my opponent really just doesn't have that many artifacts and now has even a 4th land, so I guess I'm not really interested in slamming that Kataki. The problem is that I have nothing profitable to do this turn other than that. Saheeli tick up, it just actually dies on board if my opponent wants it to, which seems pretty likely. So I'd really like to get this Felidar Guardian and play first. It might be important for me to fog damage this turn, though. Since I have an additional Saheeli Rye, it kind of buys me an additional turn, perhaps. At least gains me some amount of life. Which may be important, maybe more important than just making my opponent lose 2 mana, which is just not a big deal. They also have Ravagers. They can just eat this Memnite for free. So they basically are just losing out on 1 mana, and if they want, they could even just animate an Ink Moth, sack the Ravager to itself, put it on the Ink Moth, and just basically lose nothing, and be attacking me for like 4 infect next turn. I still think that's more impactful than Saheeli gain 4 life scry 1. So I'm going to play the Kataki. I do not think this is like particularly impactful this turn, but it does something for us. It's about as bad as a Kataki gets, to be honest, but we have the interesting line, though, of Eldritch Evolution this away, grabbing Linvala. My opponent's not going to, very unlikely to respond without knowing full well that I have a Linvala. They may think of Linvala and may respond, but by the time I've put the Linvala in play, if they have not used their Ravager to its fullest extent, then they won't be able to use it anymore, and I'll have a 3/4 flyer. So certainly that could be quite good. We'll see what my opponent does with their turn here. Looks like they're actually just going to pay for both things, so I feel like that's best case scenario for me. So depending on how explosive my opponent is here, I may feel like it's important for me to Eldritch Evolution this into a Linvala. Or I may feel like I just want to Felidar Guardian, blink my thing, and oh man, my opponent's making the Kataki look even better. Kataki's even, okay, I was going to say, is Kataki even holding back this Ravager? I'm not going to block here. Alright, well that would certainly be a much more appealing Evo target. So my opponent likely would have Gal Blasted this Kataki if they had the ability. I think in this case, my opponent looks incredibly unlikely to put a lethal amount of damage on me next turn, even with Ink Moths, right? What if they animate, Signal Pest attack, eat. So that's 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They're actually close to putting Lethal Infect on me next turn. But I wasn't counting them. I wasn't counting them having to use mana on the Kataki, so I guess they're not that close. Anyway, I guess I can pretty much attack for free here unless my opponent wanted to put counters on the Signal Pest. They could go like sack. Maybe that's not even worth it then. I guess the damage doesn't matter. There's no real reason to give my opponent the option, I suppose. So we're just going to Felidar Guardian, blink this Oath of Nissa. Renegade Rallier, Scavenging Ooze, and a land. So I don't feel like any of these particularly matter with the direction of the game currently. It's either land or Scavenging Ooze. I guess we'll just grab land here. I feel like I already have quite a lot of spells, so if things do go awry, I'm likely not to need additional spells like something like Scavenging Ooze. I'm likely to need additional mana sources to try and get out of the mess that I might be in, but hopefully we can just combo our opponent next turn and be in a good spot. Interesting. I guess they're going to sack a lot of stuff now to not have to pay for it with the Kataki. That's all fine as long as my opponent doesn't have like a... no, I actually don't know what they could have to kill me next turn with just Ink Moths. Like they could sack Memnite, Ravager, put the counters on this, still have Signal Pest, pay for the Signal Pest, play a land, animate, and they'd be attacking me for 3, 4, 5, 6 Infect. Oh, they sack the Signal Pest as well. So it looks like they may be trying to produce just a 2-turn clock with Infect. But this still requires them to attack with both Ink Moth Nexus. Wow, they didn't even sack the Ravager. Interesting. I still feel like my opponent would not have been able to resist Gal Blasting this Kataki at any given point unless they literally just drew Gal Blast right now. So I definitely am going to no fear try to go for combo next turn. I think they're even very likely to just double Ink Moth me, sack the Arcbound Ravager as well. No, looks like a no on that one. I thought my opponent might be tempted to put me on the 2-turn clock. I'm not sure what else they might be considering playing here. Looks like they floated 2 mana. We're thinking about casting something. So perhaps another Ravager, maybe even a Plating. Okay, so now they are starting to animate these. Let's see if they animate them both. Animate 1 feels like kind of strange, considering then you're still on like a... Well, I guess you have the Blink Moth, but that costs a lot of mana. But if they have a land in hand, they could go animate, attack with both, and use the Blink Moth to get that final point that they missed this turn. So I guess they could attack with this, sack Ravager, put the counters on this, attack me for 4 Infect, and then still be putting a lethal amount of Infect on me next turn with the use of that Blink Moth if they also have a... if they also have an additional mana source. I'm not blocking that Ravager here. Could lose my Felidar. And again, unless my opponent literally just drew it, I don't think I'm playing around it. I guess what I can do to play around it a little is cast Voice of Resurgence up front. So I guess we'll do that. And then fetch for a basic forest. That resolved without my opponent thinking too much, so probably good news for us. So at worst here, we're going to get a free elemental. And we still have basically both of our pieces here. Stubborn Denial. Okay, interesting. So I guess they still would have been able to make this a 4/4. That explains why they wanted to keep their Ravager around, kind of. I still feel like it made more sense to put the counters here, and then they could animate it again in Stubborn Denial, but anyway. It's unfortunate that they get to use it as a force spike here, but I think it was worth casting the voice first. We're still in a pretty good spot since we only took 1 infect last turn. And our opponent only have 2 cards in hand, but who knows? Some bad stuff could happen to us. Our opponent's has pretty few artifacts, so it's hard for them to amass anything particularly terrifying, but we will see. Certainly if they kill us, it'll be via infect. So if I had gone for something like Eldritch Evolution, then I also would have gotten Stubborn Denialed. And if I, like I said, if I hadn't voiced, they would have just sacked this, put the counters on this. They'd have a 4/4 and be able to denial without it being just a 4 spike. They would have Ferocious. Alright, so they're going to pay for the Ravager again, which surprises me again. But I guess they want to feed more stuff to it before they feed it to an Ink Moth. Another Blink Moth actually is interesting. So animate, animate, animate. 1, 2, 5, 6. Ooh, a Plating. I guess that doesn't really matter. It kind of matters. That's like +2. So equip. They have 1, 2, 3 artifacts, so that's 4 power. They can sack the Ravager to put 3 counters on it. which gives it +2, so 6. So I can go to 7 infect here if I've done my math right, which looks like I have. Fortunately, I have additional Saheeli Rai. Alright. Looks like we're going to have to iterate the combo here. Alright, never mind. Opponent graciously does not make us do that. Alright, well, we'll see you in the next round.